Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the March Book Club. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're all having a good Sunday so far, and happy Mother's Day as well if you're in the UK. If you're not, a happy Sunday. So, today's book club that we're going to be discussing is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, which is book number one in the First Law series, which was highly recommended by quite a lot of you actually, because you seem to know my tastes really, really well. So let's chat about it. That is the purpose of today. Let's talk about this incredible book. I mean, you might not have thought it was incredible. Spoiler alert, I did. So let's talk about it. Just to let you know as well, I am going to be looking down a lot because I've been writing a lot of notes as I've been reading this book throughout March because I had a lot of thoughts about it, a lot that I wanted to say that I didn't want to forget. And I know what my memory is like. So if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. I felt like I didn't do that enough in February's book club live stream. I feel like I didn't make coherent thoughts very well because I just kind of read Dune and didn't put too much thought into it. Whereas I felt like this time I wanted to learn from it and actually have some cohesive thoughts to discuss about the Blade itself. So, first of all, what did you guys think to it? So, I've kind of already said what I thought to it in that I thought it was incredible. Did Cooney, before getting started, I read the Kindle version. Can you tell me how many pages are in the physical copy? Of course I can. Let me have a look. Um, so, is that it? 515 pages. How many pages does Kindle do pages? How many pages were on the Kindle version? As you can tell, I'm not really a Kindle user yet. That may change. You blitzed through it. Yeah. This didn't take me that long to get through, if I'm being honest. I had to pace myself. I had to slow myself down because otherwise I would have just read it so quickly. And I didn't want to ruin it for myself by rushing it. Hello, evening, Becky. Evening, everybody. Hello, Robert. Nice to see you here as well. Oh, the Kindles just have a percentage. Okay, that's really helpful, actually. That's why I like to update my pages onto Goodreads because it shows a percentage. So at the end of every day, I update Goodreads with how many pages I've read, and it shows me the percentage that I am through the book. Because I really like that Kindle does that feature of showing a percentage through it. That's the downside to having a physical copy. But yeah, nice to see you all. Thank you for joining. What did you think to the book? Was there anything negative to say? Because I only had like positive things. Second question: does the physical copy have a map? I don't think it does. I would have remembered. Let me see. No, it doesn't. There is no map, which I think it should have one. I think it should have one for the main city that it's based in because there's a lot of reference to like the different locations and where things are placed. And I feel like I tried to visualize it, but I think this would benefit from having a map of the main city just so that we can see like where the different buildings are. But that's just my opinion. I don't think, I mean, I do love having a map at the front of a book, but it's a very like menial thing. It's not a deal breaker. Does the Kindle version have a map? Sorry, I feel like I'm learning so much about Kindle tonight. I don't think I ever caught the name of the city. Yeah, I don't know what the name of the city was. What was it? That might annoy me that I don't know. So new paper whites show a choice of percentage, pages, position, time left in the book. Oh, if the book is in the proper format. That's really cool. I love stuff like that. I really like knowing how many pages I have left, what the percentage is, how long it might take me to read it. There's still no map in the new edition either. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I feel like that's like like that's so rare that a fantasy book doesn't have a map in the front. I can't remember the last time I read one that doesn't have one in. But again, it's only like a little thing. It was only for me to like visualize it. And plus, I'm sure if you like Google online, a lot of like fans tend to do like fan art for the books that they like. So maybe somebody's done a map out there for the city in this book. But if anybody knows the name of the city, help a gal out because I'm flicking through it now and I just can't see it. And I'm sure there will be a name. Again, it's probably a very quick Google answer away. But what did you guys all think to the book? I really enjoyed this. I genuinely really did. I had such a fun time reading this. I don't have many negatives to say about it. Do I have any negatives to say? I don't know. I'm sure there will be. It's not a perfect book, but I just really, really enjoyed it. Oh, thank you, the Rat Mafia. Adua is the city. There was the Agriont, but I thought that was like a Vatican City style city in a city. That is exactly what I thought to the Agriont as well. I'm going to pronounce it like that, but I always pronounce things wrong, so I do apologize. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Same, me too. I'm so glad you said that. I honestly like from the characters to the storyline to the locations to the use of magic. I just thought it was all really well done. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I read the ebook at the time it was released. I remember I had to search for the map on the web. Actually, that's a good point. When was this released? Because it's not like a new book at all, is it? I don't think. Oh, definitely not. 2006. Why has it taken me so long to read this when it was released in 2006? I should have read this sooner. Yeah, this was honestly brilliant. I also love the front cover of this edition as well. I've seen there's another cover art that is like white and has like big black writing on it. That looks really cool as well. I'd never seen this cover art until I looked in the shop and found it, and I really like it. I think it looks pretty. Read it a while ago, but haven't finished it. Interesting. Why did you not finish it? Did you not like it, or was it just due to lack of time? Because sometimes that happens to me. Sometimes I like a book, but I just need to take a break from it, and then I just forget to go back to it. Um, and actually, on that basis, there will probably be spoilers in this live stream. I'm going to assume that there probably will be, just because it is a book club spoiler discussion. So just be very cautious of that if you don't want it completely ruined for you. I may accidentally ruin it for you. Sorry in advance. I'm so glad that this book was chosen. Me too. I loved how it started in the middle of action, like a James Bond slash Indiana Jones. Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that as well because although we have to like kind of learn and bring ourselves up to speed with what's going on, it was like immediately there was tension, immediately there was like action, and there was already stuff going on. And I liked trying to like work out the pieces and like the puzzle pieces as to how we got to that point. One thing that I really liked as well is that the first chapter is called The End. I just I don't know why I liked that the book starts with a chapter called The End. Again, it's the little things, isn't it? But it's like the little touches like that that just make it really cool. The book slash series is so amazing. Characters are brilliant. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And I've only read one book in the series. I will definitely be reading the next book. There's not a doubt in my mind that I'm going to pick up the next book soon. I'm not wanting to wait that long, so I'm going to buy that sooner rather than later, to be honest. I do have a very, very long TBR, but this series is working its way up to the top of it because I don't want to wait any longer really to read the next one. Yeah, defo a feel of working out puzzles. Yeah, exactly. And I think that that is interesting and it's enjoyable to do when it's not too confusing. So for other books in the past, they've put you in the middle of action right at the start and you don't have a clue what's going on and you also struggle to work it out. So that's where it becomes unenjoyable. But I felt for this one, the characters were so intriguing that I cared enough about their stories and why they're currently in the positions that they're in. And I feel like it was easy enough to work out over time what was going on. And it was interesting enough. I just think that Joe Abercrombie did it really well. Um, I don't know if this is like his debut novel. I don't know if this is the first one that he released or if he's had ones before this. But I just think he did things extremely well in this book. And the I think the different unique characters really stood out to me. Like you've got characters like Logan Nine Fingers, and then you've got characters like Blockter, who are both so different from each other and both so interesting. I really, really liked it. Um, it's his debut. Wow. Mad respect because to put it quite simply, this was great. I don't think there's words to describe how incredible I thought this book was. I'm trying to think if there's anything negative I can say about it. I'm being like way too positive tonight. His writing was superb, sometimes quite funny. His action writing was incredible. one point made me so angry I threw my Kindle away from me. Oh, I just love when an author like evokes that much emotion in you. Like there's been times where you can literally feel like your blood boil and you're like, I need to chill. But yeah, the writing style was incredible. It's one that I really vibe with. And I think he had the correct amount of humor that doesn't take away from the story or make it feel silly. The humor was in all the right places. The action and the serious themes were in all the right places for me. Yeah, I just think he timed and paced things really well. Um, Nah, I just always struggle with finishing books. That's fair. Yeah, that's completely fair. To be fair, sometimes if I'm like, I go through phases. I go through phases of reading books really fast, and then I go through phases of starting 10 of them at the same time and then not finishing any of them. Depends what stage I'm at. It's been so long. Does it start with Logan running from somebody? I'm sure it does. It starts just after like the aftermath of Logan being separated from his barbarian crew with like Dogman and everybody. I believe he's under the assumption that they are deceased. And yeah, he is. He's running away from what are the people called? What are the crazy people? Is it the Shanker? The I just call them crazy people. That's probably not the greatest thing to call them. What would you guys? How would you guys describe the Shanker and the Flatheads? That's it. He's running away from the Shanker and the Flatheads. Thank you, Tidkuni Shanker. I describe this book as a Game of Thrones with a sense of humor. That's such a good way of putting it. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it's got very similar themes to Game of Thrones for sure. It had like political elements. It had that kind of like setting, like that kind of medieval pastime setting. But I also feel like it focused a lot more on the magical elements than Game of Thrones does, at least at the start of the Song of Ice and Fire series. Um, because I really like the character of like Baya, Bayaz, Bayaz, Boyaz, Boyer. You guys know who I mean. I'm just double checking that that's his name. I'm really bad with names, guys. He's called Bayaz, isn't he? The mage guy. He was really cool, really sassy, and he made me laugh. Yeah, he's called Bayaz. He made me laugh so many times in this book, and I really like the use of magic shown through him. Yeah, he was really, really cool. Yeah, it's every bit as gritty as Game of Thrones. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, I also actually a character that I found particularly interesting and who also made me laugh quite a lot was Jezal. Jezal. I Why can't they just make names easy to say? He was so funny because he's just so arrogant and like overly cocky. But then we also saw a bit of vulnerability to him as well when he was leading up to the contest and he started to doubt himself a little bit. Um, he had a lot of not maybe character development, but a lot of like depth to him. Hello, Stannis Baratheon, Stannis the Manis, the one and only. Thank you for joining us today. um, oh, I was fangirling a bit there at that username. I'm a Stan fan. What else can we say about this incredible book that's not just it's amazing? Again, I'm trying to come up with some intelligent, coherent thoughts for you guys, but I'm lost for words. I'm speechless. Let me have a look at my notes that I wrote as I was reading it. I remember despising the guy. I can't remember why though. Is it because he's so sassy? Because he's definitely sassy. Like I would not want to get into an argument with him because he would just keep throwing the backlash at me and he'd come out with these aggressive comments at me that other people would find funny, but I would get really butthurt over it. Um, that is what I imagined when imagining myself speaking to Bayaz. I felt like the focus of the plot moved around, not a criticism. Yeah, I suppose it's. Oh, actually, I do have a negative point that you've just sparked my mind. I'm going to say that in a moment. Great content. I love your reactions. Thank you so much. That is very, very kind. Thank you. Yes, my negative point. I wasn't too keen on the character of Ferrer. Because she was just nasty and mean and rude. But yes, she has had a lot of trauma. We can cut her some slack. She's had a bit of a difficult ride. But she also just wasn't very nice. to anybody that she spoke to, and her outlook on life is not one that I would want to have. She was her perspectives and her inner monologues were a little bit not what I resonate with, to say the least. It sort of went from the investigation of the Mercers and then a big hole blasted somewhere and then a siege. Yeah, that's so true. It did jump around quite a lot. Like one moment I thought that the main focus was like the political elements, and then all of a sudden it moved on to like the really weird, shady stuff happening in like the House of the Maker with the weird magical stuff. And I'm like, whoa, what are we doing here? So yeah, there was all sorts of different stuff. But I feel like it's going to build on that in the next book. Maybe tie up some loose ends. I am waiting next episode of Game of Thrones. Brilliant. Wednesday. Every Wednesday. I'm loving watching Game of Thrones, guys. I know this isn't a Game of Thrones topic live stream, but honestly, I'm having the time of my life watching it. I'm so glad I started it. He's kind of pompous, but he's a centuries-old wizard, so what do you expect? Yeah, he's arrogant, but I feel like he has a right to be. You know, he knows his stuff. He's a smart guy. Okay, he's very skilled in using his magician magic stuff. As you can probably tell, I am not. But he's kind of pompous. He's kind of sassy. He's kind of arrogant. But I suppose he has the right to be. So yeah, I was here for it. I loved Farah, but there was very little of her, and loads of Jezal training for the contest. Yeah, maybe there was a little bit too much of Jezal training for the contest. I feel like that was a huge focus of the plot, and I feel like we could have maybe cut out a few chapters or a chapter maybe. I feel like a whole portion of the book for Jezal's storyline was leading up to the contest, and I feel like if we didn't have the other POVs mixed in there with the other characters, that might have felt slow. I think the only reason it didn't is because we switched it up with Logan's storyline. We had a lot from West as well. We had the bits with Ardy and Jezal in there. So if they weren't in there, I feel like Jezal's storyline might have been a little bit boring up until like right at the end, in my opinion. The Rat Mafia nailed it. Pompous bastard. Yes. It's amazing that you have not been spoiled yet about Game of Thrones. I know, isn't it? I'm so grateful that it's not been spoiled for me, because I'm so late to the party with watching this TV series, and how has nothing been spoiled for me? I think the final episode of Game of Thrones has been spoiled for me, I think, but anything in between hasn't. So very happy about that. So yes, it is amazing. You are absolutely right. Also, guys, I wrote a note about Logan's speech about death on page 140 was so powerful and added further insight into his character. So I'm going to see what paragraph I was referring to when I wrote that. It's been a couple of weeks since I read the book. But I do remember he had a very interesting viewpoint on death. So let's talk about death today. Trigger warning, just in case people don't want to talk about death. What did he say? Where am I finding this? And obviously it won't even be page 140 for Kindle users. Oh yeah, I hope you guys don't mind that I'm going to read out pretending I'm Logan. So he's put, I've fought 10 single combats and I've won them all, but I've always fought on the wrong side and for all the wrong reasons. I've been ruthless and brutal and a coward. I've stabbed men in the back, burned them, drowned them, crushed them with rocks, killed them asleep, unarmed, or running away. I've begged for my life. I've been wounded badly and screamed and cried like a baby. I've no doubt that the world would be a better place if I'd been killed years ago, but I haven't been, and I don't know why. I don't know why I liked that. I think it's just because he's talking about his past in such a brutal way. But we kind of see that he no longer feels that way. Like a big part of Logan's character is that he no longer wants to kill. And I think it's just that development. He no longer wants to, kill on the wrong side of the enemy, on the wrong side with his enemies. And I think it just showed a lot of development in him. I just really liked Logan. He might have been one of my favorite characters. Since I binged the whole trilogy more than a decade ago, the lines between books are all blurred and it's all mashed together in my head. Yeah, that happens to me all the time, which is why for like these book clubs, I want to write notes as I'm reading the book, because when I finished a book, I know I like it. I know I've enjoyed it, but I can't remember the specifics in between or why I liked it. So I want to make a habit of really trying to remember the core details now so that I can really value and appreciate the books in Bayez's library. Yeah. It's amazing, but remember, the night is dark and full of terrors. Ooh, ain't that the truth? Um, The last fight at the end of the book, he almost becomes someone else and loves the killing. Yeah, like no one I've read about before. He's starving for slaughter. Yeah, so isn't there just so much depth to this character? I feel like he's really conflicted. I mean, again, he's had a very, very rough ride. I mean, the book starts off with him fighting for his life. We learn that he's had close family members and friends being like killed, and he's just had a horrible, horrible time. But he's trying to become a better person for it. I think he was trying to learn something from it and become like this really inspirational person who's had like a new outlook on life for his life. Um, but then, like you say, there's parts of his old self are still very much so there. They're still very like reminiscent in him and things that he's doing towards the end of the book. We're thinking actually he hasn't changed all that much. He is still him, and he is still that guy who killed all those people in his past self. Speaking to spirits, it was like he was possessed. Yeah. He has some sort of connection to the other side. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so intrigued to learn more about that. I hope that comes up in the next book. I'm imagining it probably will. Um, One thing that I liked actually as well about this book was that all of their stories were very separate to start off with. They were all off doing their own thing. You know, you had Jezal doing this, you had Logan doing this. Who else did we have? There were some other characters as well, all doing their own thing. Um, but then towards the end of the book, they're all linked together, like their storylines are all intertwined together. And I loved the part from Jezel's perspective where he's meeting Logan and Bayaz and the little apprentice guy for the first time when they reach the city, because we know these characters and we've been reading from their perspectives, but we're seeing them now through Jezel's eyes. And I just quite liked that point where everybody was all mixed together, like their storylines all mixed together. I thought it was really cool. Um, I've realised I've not talked much about Glockter as well, and he is probably one of the most interesting characters I've ever read about, ever in a fictional book. It felt like a prequel, how the gang got together. And then the next book, the quest starts. It does. You're right. It does kind of feel like a prequel, kind of everybody's backstories and showing us how they got to where they are and how they all got onto the same quest and the same adventure together, how they all met. You're absolutely right, it does. I'm glad I read it first. Obviously, it is the first book. Obviously, I know that some people can read like prequels in the middle of a series, but I am glad I read it first. But it does definitely feel like an introduction. Hello, Benjamin reads. It feels like a book length prologue to me, fleshing out the characters before the adventures really start. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I'm so glad you both just said that because that is what this feels like to me. I really enjoyed it, but it definitely does feel like an introduction, introducing us to the characters, allowing us to learn about them, gain our connections with them, decide who our favorite characters are, and then it shows us how they all got to meet and be where they currently are, basically, on their next quest. Glockta is so detestable yet lovable. Clickstep Pin. You are absolutely right. This is what I was going to say. He's a character that we shouldn't root for, and I wouldn't say I'm necessarily rooting for him, but I kind of liked him. Oh, what does that say about me? Like he's very warped in the mind. He's experienced a lot of torture. That does make sense. Um, but he is just so interesting, so unbelievably interesting because he's not a nice person now. He's not a nice character. But why did I like him? Why did he make me laugh? Why did I find myself wanting to read his chapters? Why did I want to find out the ways that he's torturing people and the ways that he's thinking about the world? Why did he do this to me? I don't understand. Hi Becky, sorry I'm late. That's okay, Rushy. Thank you so much for making it. I really appreciate it. Haha, Benjamin, I loved Glockter. His chapters gave me that same feeling when you see a Tyrion chapter. Yeah, a soft spot for bastards and broken things. Yeah, that's a really good point kind of comparing him to Tyrion. I would definitely say Glockta is more cruel and evil than Tyrion, at least Tyrion at the start of the series. Obviously, he does go a bit crazy towards the end, but yeah, I would say that Glockta's a little bit more like a baddie. Yeah, he's definitely a baddie, isn't he? But I think he is quite likable. And I liked that we did learn a lot about his past and why he's a baddie. I mean, he's just been through an unimaginable amount of torture and pain. And I'm sorry, but if I'd been through all of that, I'd probably be just as bitter about the world. Yeah, I would. So I can't judge him. But there was a particular chapter between Glockta and West. Is it Captain West? Where they're kind of like rekindling their friendship again. Or they because they used to be buddies back in the day, didn't they? And there was a chapter where they were kind of like putting like an olive branch between them and rekindling their friendship. And I just found that so wholesome. I found that chapter so emotional, and I was really rooting for both of them to become pals if they can, despite everything that's happened. So that was really that was a chapter that particularly stood out for me. It was great. There's a book of short stories that goes into more depth on some of the stories touched on in the books. Cool. Acting as kind of a prequel, but it was released after the trilogy was completed. Wow, I didn't know that. That's cool. Thanks for letting me know. I will definitely have to check that out. That sounds amazing. And he felt rejected by his friends in that chapter with West. Yeah, and he did. There's a big sense of rejection there. And he is just so bitter about the world. And he did judge like West and become quite skeptical of him at first in that chapter, but then towards the end he'd kind of had a bit of a rethink and thought, actually, I could do with a friend, or I could do with a pal. Yeah, I just thought it was heartwarming. Evening, the Rogue, nice to see you here. Thank you for joining us. This is the problem with these live streams. I always talk for so long and then I don't drink, and then my throat feels like it's gonna combust. And then I get out of breath. But there's just so much to say about this book. I just love it. The blade itself incites to deeds of violence. Deep, deep. What else did I think to the book? Another part that stood out to me was the representation of Jezel's anxiety in the build up to the contest, because I just thought it was so accurate. He was just completely overthinking everything, and he went through waves of being overly confident, overly arrogant, overly cocky about the contest, to all of a sudden panicking and overthinking about everything. Like there's a point where his mind talks about Ardy. Is she in the crowd? Is she going to be watching? And then he's talking about the fencing grass, and he was like, how do they get the grass there? And then he was like, oh, now I need a wee. And he's just like, his mind's spiraling into all these different stages of anxiety. And I just thought it was so funny. And it was so representative. Because obviously that would be a very nerve-wracking event. I would not want to fight in that contest, and I would be highly anxious for it as well. I just found it so funny and so accurate. It's best to read the short story collection just before the Age of Madness trilogy. It goes all over the timeline. That is cool. Sorry if I'm being very dumb, but is the Age of Madness also by Joe Abercrombie? If you could let me know, that'd be great. Sorry if that was me being unintentionally thick. I liked that too. I loved that they started talking about their old quartermaster and what happened to him. And Glockta knows he's in prison up north. Yes, it's little details like that, like little touches. I absolutely loved it. I think there were a few instances where someone thought I need a wee before violence. There were other people that thought that as well, which I just thought it was funny, because I've often thought, before people are going to war or going to a battle or having a fight, what goes through their minds? Do they think about anything? Or are they thinking too deeply? Are they on autopilot? I've always been interested, because I do not have personal experience with that. And it's just always something that's, I found really intriguing. And I thought that Joe Abercrombie did that well in this book, to show the thought processes of people in those moments. Hi, Becky. Hi, Fee. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Having read the series, I feel like The Blade itself is probably the weakest first law book, it being the debut, but it's still a great story. This just means the series gets better and better. Wow, that has made me so much more excited to read the rest because I really enjoyed this book so much. Rather oddly, this felt like a really comforting, cozy read to me. It's definitely not meant to be because obviously it has some very deep themes in it. It has some very deep storylines, but I just felt so comforted reading it. I think it must be to do with the characters. I feel like I just gelled with a lot of them. Um, yeah, I feel like I just felt really connected to them. It was great. Um, Oh, cool. Thank you, The Rogue. Same world, 30 years later. That is awesome. So, you've said it's best to read the short story collection just before the Age of Madness. I am going to make a note of that because I will definitely forget. So, thank you for that so much. So, read the short story. Just updating my TBR. Don't mind me. Talk amongst yourselves. Read the short story before Age of Madness. This is how you know it's live, at least. Cool. Thank you very much. That's really helpful. Benjamin, really happy to hear that. Cannot wait to devour the rest. Same. Oh, when am I going to read it? My TBR is so long for like the rest of the year. I might try and read it in the next one in May or June, I think, because I don't want to leave it too far away. There's this trilogy, 3 standalone books. These are fantastic. A short stories collection, and then the sequel trilogy called Age of Madness. Oh wow, I'm so happy. I'm gonna be reading Abercrombie for the rest of my life. This is great. That's great news, Benjamin. Yeah. Cozy fantasy doesn't always have to be light and fluffy. That's so right, and that is what this is. This is a perfect example of that. I just felt so cozy and comforted when reading it, and it wasn't light and fluffy. Not at all. There's 3 trilogies in the first law. There is 2 true trilogies, and then 3 standalone books, all released between the 2 true trilogies. True trilogies. Why am I struggling to say that phrase? All are relevant reads. This is great. I had no idea there were so many books by Joe Abercrombie. Why did I not look into this? You're also helpful. Thank you. You're all in for a fun ride. Yes, I cannot wait. It's going to be a good reading year. It already has been. It gets better from here, apparently. Do we ever get an official map? I really miss that, to be honest. My only complaint. Yeah, same. Absolutely agree. I think that's the only thing because I do like to flick back and forth between a map just so that I can visualize the locations of things. And again, because a lot of this story was mainly based in that city, there were obviously parts outside of it, but would quite like to know like where the house of the maker is and where all the other stuff were. Can't remember what other buildings there were, but there was a park. I would like to know where that park is in reference to the house of the maker. Um, the standalones had more film influences and each their own unique flavour and bridge the gap between the trilogies. That's so cool. I can't wait for that. So they're all set in the same world then it sounds, which is really, really cool. My favourite book is the first of the standalone books. Ooh, interesting. I think in the special editions there are. So yeah, but special editions are expensive. I mean, it's worth spending the money on, to be fair, when they look so stunning and they have a map. Um, but yeah, it might be a while before we can get those. Best Served Cold is fantastic. I'm going to assume that's the name of one of the books, and if so, I can't wait to read it. Abercrombie thought at the time it would have been a waste of paper. Really? What a shame he thought that way. To be fair, with some maps, are so beautiful that I'd kind of like a collage of different maps behind me. Do I always struggle to mirror my finger? There we go. Yeah, I'd quite like a collage of all my favorite maps all stuck together in this section. That was really hard to do. Why do I keep struggling to mirror my hand in the webcam? When they were moving from the north and further from the south, I think I didn't get too much sense of their movement. Yeah, I just find it quite hard to like visualize where things are. I mean, it's not because he didn't make it clear. I mean, he was very clear, and this is the north, this is the south. He didn't need to spell it out for me. But sometimes I just like to see what's in between and kind of link it up that way with a map. Best Served Cold is my favorite too. Oh, okay, we're getting a lot of recommendations of Best Served Cold. I can't wait to read that. So I'm assuming I should finish the First Law trilogy and then Best Served Cold? Is that what you would recommend? Um, is that true? Did he give a real reason for that? Yeah, I'd love to know. This might be basic and may have come up already, but I really like the aesthetics of the cover and the textured feel of it. Yes, I did. I said this. I love this cover. Look, it's like parchment or something, isn't it? And it's got like the gold foiling. That is so satisfying. Sorry, I'm just admiring the book now. God, these live streams are just chaotic, aren't they? Um, no maps, you need room for another bookshelf. Watch this space. Well, it's not really a secret. I do have plans to get another bookshelf. I'm gonna get this one again and pop it there. So there's more books. Because that is what this room should be used for. You could never have too many knives in Logan's experience. All fingers. He found a lot of fantasy maps had a lot of wasted space, and you would not go there as the reader. Well, clearly he never met me. I mean, he hasn't. Publication order, definitely. Okay, cool. Thank you. I will definitely do that. I can't wait to read the rest of them now. Should I just spend all evening reading? This is the good thing about these book club live streams. I get so inspired to read. That's probably one of the reasons why I left my reading slump that I had in January, because then I had the book club live stream, and talking about books all that time just made me so excited to read. So I think this is a really wholesome thing for me. Thank you, guys. Some minor characters in the First Law trilogy are quite important in standalones. Oh, some minor characters. I wonder if we've met any of them yet. The plot thickens. Honestly, I just think one of the main things about this was that I just really, really do vibe with Joe Abercrombie's writing style. I thought that he writes in a way that's very easy to understand. He had very complex themes within his plots that hit hard, and yeah, I feel like it worked well. And he had some very unique characters. Like I mentioned, I've never experienced a character like Glockter before. He was one of a kind and so intriguing. I thought Logan was likable. The magicians in it were so cool to learn about. Yeah, it was just awesome. Like I said, my only person at the moment that I don't really care about is Ferrer, but that is just my opinion. I know not everybody agrees. You've only met a couple of them right now. Oh, I'm gonna try and guess which ones. No clue. Actually, there was quite a few people in the Inquisition as well. Are they called the Inquisition? I think they are the Inquisitors. There were quite a few people there that were really cool that we've not talked about, like Frost. And who was the other guy's name that begins with an S? Oh, what was his name? Sorry, guys, gonna have to flick through the book and find out. Unless you guys know. I didn't explain it very well, so you probably don't know who I mean. What was his name? It was Frost and somebody else. Severard, is that his name? That rings a bell. That might be it. I think you're right. There was two of them, wasn't there? When they were torturing people and Glockter kind of like orders them around a little bit, get them to do his dirty work. And they were torturing somebody right at the start of the book. And there was not Captain Frost, definitely not Captain Frost. And I think it was Severard. I think you're right. Thank you very much, Tid Cooney. Much appreciated. Nobody likes Ferrer. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I agree. I want to roll into the next book immediately. Same. I keep making the Game of Thrones similarities, but the writing style is so much easier to digest in the First Law. Yes, that is what I will say about A Song of Ice and Fire when I first read it. It was a little bit more complicated, I would say. It's definitely a more challenging book series to read. I don't think that this was that challenging. I don't think it was challenging at all, actually, to be honest. I think that I could recommend this to someone who's relatively new to fantasy. I think it would be like a complex read for somebody who's new to fantasy, but in the best possible way. I did find this easier to get to grips with what was going on. I found the characters memorable, and I think that was my only thing with A Song of Ice and Fire when I first read it, was that there were a lot of characters, obviously from all the different houses, and it just got a little bit confusing who the side characters were, other than like the main characters. Like obviously you understand those people with their POV chapters, but the ones who didn't have POV chapters, I struggled with a lot to remember who they were. I didn't find that with this. I found that I could remember the side characters a lot more. So that's my take on comparing it to A Song of Ice and Fire. The big lad with the speech impediment, and then the camp popinjay. Perfect descriptions. What similarities do you see between the character works of Joe Abercrombie and George R. R. Martin? Oh, very relevant question. We were just talking about that. Characters. I feel like George R. R. Martin does have a really big range of characters as well, really interesting and unique. Again, I'm not. There's nobody in there that's feeling similar to Glockter to me. And Glockter, I do think, is one of those most interesting interesting characters I've probably ever seen in fiction. Um, yeah, I think, and also Baez. There isn't really anybody like Baez in A Song of Ice and Fire, is there? Nobody who feels as sassy as him. They're sassy people, but they don't. I don't think they're sassy mages. Um, that was my very vague answer. I love this trilogy so much. I went and bought myself the hardbacks when I got back to reading a couple of years ago. And I'm sorry I missed the broken binding special editions. Oh, those special editions, they just look stunning, don't they? Expensive, but probably worth it. Hardbacks just look really crazy aggressive, don't they? I mean, look at again, I'm gonna do the mirror thing. Look at Mertag in comparison to like these books. He just looks so hench, don't you think? There's just something about hardback books that just make me feel like in book world they'd be really big macho men. Do you guys know what I mean? They're just like real intimidating and they look really cool, and it's like you don't want to beat up a hardback book. Um, this is the way that my brain works, guys. I hope you love it. The similarities are fairly overblown, in my opinion. That is a good opinion to have. It is accessible. My brother's mate only reads menus and chippies, but he raves about this. That's brilliant. That is great. Actually, I do have a friend who said that they wanted to get into reading, but like don't very often, and they were looking for like a book that's going to be quite gripping. I recommended Aragon to them, but Aragon does feel a bit younger. I don't feel like this is not like a children's book or even a young adult book. I would say this is definitely for like an adult. I feel like I am of the age group and older than me that this was intended for, whereas I feel like Aragon is for like youngsters back in my day. Just making myself sound really old there. But yeah, so I feel like this would probably be a very good one to recommend, and I'm probably going to recommend it to that particular friend as well. Um, Agreed. I've gifted this book several times. All have loved it, even those who don't read fantasy. Yeah, amazing. I love that. I really do love that. So I think this would be quite a good like introductory book to get somebody into reading. The wizard is like a hedgelord version of Gandalf. Yeah, why did I not think of Gandalf? I guarantee there are Gandalf inspirations in Bayaz. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right because I love that name. I have a feeling I'm not, though. If I was going to compare Joe to another author in some way, I will say that only two have made me laugh out loud whilst reading: Joe Abercrombie and Terry Pratchett. I don't think I've read any Terry Pratchett. I don't think I have. I think that should change. Both are wonderful at balancing hilarious dialogue with profound themes. Yes, and that is a great, great point because that is exactly why I loved this. The humor was relevant but not silly. It didn't take away from the deep themes of the book. The points that he was trying to convey and the deep like meanings behind the plots all hit hard, but he still has humor in there. So it hasn't ruined anything. Like sometimes I've read books where the humor is just a bit unnecessary, or it starts to get overdone, or it starts to feel like they're trying too hard. I did not feel that way with this book, and that is why I loved it. Well, it's one of the reasons why I loved it. I got Terry Pratchett vibes, HBO version of Pratchett. Oh my goodness, I feel like I should read Terry Pratchett now. Why have I not? Please elaborate. I would love to hear your thoughts since I read the whole Discworld twice over. Yes, please do elaborate. I'd love to know. Gandalf slapping fruits were never mentioned. Incredible. What time is it in your country? My country is Indonesia. Hi. Hi from England. Here it is. Oh my goodness. 1:43 midnight and I haven't slept yet. Is that the normal time that you go to bed? I'm normally well asleep by then. Thank you for joining the live stream. Thank you so much. Wow, I hope I'm not keeping you awake. I do appreciate you joining us today. Also, is it Sunday or Monday in your country? I'd be really interested to know. Terry Pratchett recommendation, Discworld. Awesome. Thank you. I do feel like I've definitely, oh my goodness, I've definitely heard of that before. Why have I not picked it up yet? Abercrombie's logic was to write fantasy with none of the romanticism and take away any self seriousness. That is cool. Um, and you know what? His logic works. Really, really works. Um, you need to read Sir Terry like yesterday, ASAP. Oh wow, lots of people are wanting me to read read Terry Pratchett. Okay, okay. So this needs to be bumped up higher on my TBR, doesn't it? Okay. See, you guys influence me. You guys are the influencers. I hate that term. um, where do I save my TBR on my phone? I'm just gonna make a new note for it. So Terry Pratchett, Discworld. Would you guys potentially want a video on that when I read it? I'm happy to film whatever you want to see within reason, please. We are a booktube channel, remember. I don't want to spoil too much. They're both great at biting satire on themes such as politics, war, and justice. That is a very strong point that you've made there, and I'm very excited for it. For now, who is your favorite character? Oh, in the Game of Thrones for now. Okay. In the books, definitely Tyrion the whole way through, consistently, and Arya. I thought you only asked for one. Tyrion, Arya, maybe Tyrion because of his witty humor. In the TV show, um, very, very hot take, but I'm really liking Melisandre in the TV show. Really liking her. I think they've casted her extremely well, and she's very, very cool. Yeah, I am. I'm liking Melisandre a lot in the TV show. It's 40 books long. 40? That's not a typo. That's not meant to say 4. You said 40? 40 books? You guys are just trying to prank me now, aren't you? I'm going to be like middle-aged by the time I've read these books. Well, stick around for all the content on it on my YouTube channel. Pratchett books are quite short. Oh, okay, they're short. That's fine. Very easy to digest. Yes to Pratchett videos. When you read Pratchett, start with guards. Okay. Wow, there's so many recommendations. These live streams are great. I get so many new books to read afterwards. Just writing things down. Guards. Yes, thank you. In movie, not books. Yeah, Melisandre then. So far. Obviously Tyrion as well, but I feel like he's going to get better. I feel like his character is going to get better in future seasons. But so far, Melisandre. I've struggled to read Terry Pratchett books, but I have read I'm going to butcher this, Bromeliad. You guys know what I mean. You can read the message. Trilogy several times, but it's more of a kid's book. Okie dokes. Yes to Pratchett videos. Yes to Pratchett videos. Awesome. Tyrion or Glockta? It's got to be Tyrion. Got to be Tyrion. But Glockta's at a disadvantage. He has only had one book that I have read thus far. And if he is in future books, we shall see. I do think Tyrion is a little bit more likable because he's not completely deranged. Not that you can't like people who are deranged. There are plenty of people who are deranged. I myself am most probably deranged, and I hope that people like me because of that. So, but I do think that I don't know enough about Glockta to know to make a fair judgment on that. So I'd have to say Tyrion. Sorry, I'm wrong. It's the main series that is 41 books long. Wow, 41 books. Wow. But if they're good, then the goodness never ends. I am very excited to delve into a new series, to be fair. Another quick Abercrombie plus. I really loved that the chapters were fairly short, which yes, same. It always makes me feel like just one more when I get which I get turned off if a chapter is 40 plus pages. Do you know what? Are we the same person? I completely agree with that. If there is a chapter that, even if I love the book, but if there is a chapter that is honestly like 30 plus pages, 30 is my limit. Even sometimes at 25 pages, I'm like, can you end now? Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's my attention span or I don't know, but if there are really, really long chapters, I do start to get a bit drained. I really do. What is your favorite quote from The Blade itself? Possibly that passage where Logan's talking about his death and not his death. He's talking about I have burned people, I have drowned people, I have been hurt, I've been brutally murdered, I've screamed like a baby. I should have been killed a million times before, but I haven't. And I don't know why. I really, really liked that passage from him. So it's more of like a paragraph rather than a quote. And again, in the physical copy, that's on page 140. But I just really liked his opinions and perspectives on death. Cheerful. What is your favourite quote? I realise I've answered all the questions and I haven't asked you guys enough of what you thought about the book. How selfish of me. Let me know your favourite quotes or your favourite parts or your favourite chapters of the books. That'd be really interesting to know. Abercrombie is one of those authors people keep suggesting to finish Song of Ice and Fire, and he's made it clear that whilst he's a fan, he's got no interest in doing so. Wow, that is interesting. I also feel like, I don't know if the rumours are true, but I feel like George R. R. Martin said he wouldn't have somebody finish it for him, or he like wasn't that open towards it. Again, you hear all sorts of stuff online. But I think there would be many authors who would be brilliant and who would be a good like candidate for being able to finish the series. It's just whether or not George R. R. Martin would trust somebody else to do it for him. I don't know. We shall have to see. I think it is about time investment. Ah, yes, time. Because actually, when I sit down to read, it's normally in like 15 minutes at a time. Like I always say, I love reading in the morning. It's genuinely for only about 15 minutes whilst I have my morning coffee, and then 15 minutes before bed, maybe 15 minutes at lunch. Like if I've got a really long chapter that I can't finish in that 15 minutes, I'm gonna get annoyed. That's my take on it. A lot of fantasy has long AF chapters. I know. And it pains me to have to put my bookmark in the middle of a chapter. If I have to stop mid chapter, I'm not here for it. A note about Pratchett. Expect for the first 2 published books, all of his books are standalones. Okay. And then there are sub-series. Guards is the first of the City Watch sub-series. That sounds like a really cool way of like structuring his world or his universe. That's very cool. That monologue lives rent-free in my memory. I'm glad to hear that. Tolkien, who I love, has 100 pages describing 3 hobbits walking through fields. But it's a great description of the hobbits. I've mostly stopped paying attention to him, so I don't know if he's changed his mind. By the way, Joe has a new book coming out in a couple of months called The Devils. This is a completely new story separate from the First Law. I think it's being promoted as a dark comedy. Wow, okay, that has piqued my interest. Very interesting. Oh, I'm so excited. Honestly, I just loved his writing style. I really do want to read more from him. I really, really enjoyed this book so, so much. Has any Abercrombie stuff been on TV/movies? Oh, that would be cool if it was. Not yet. Well, I hope so soon, because I feel like this could be a very good adaptation. Although there's always that risk that it could get ruined. Hopefully not, though, because Game of Thrones wasn't ruined until the end, I've heard, when the books no longer exist. So if they do it like that, then this will be fine. So many great quotes, but the part that really got my attention was the lines that started with, "Has it ever occurred to you, Master Ninefingers, that a sword is different from other weapons?" Oh, chills. One thing I like to do reading fantasy is playing Who Would I Cast As? Same! I like to do that. Who would I cast as Logan? Who would you guys cast as Logan? Normally, everybody just says Henry Cavill for any hot male main character. They just put him as all of them. But I don't feel he's not giving me Logan vibes. I'd love to know. An adaptation of Best Served Cold was announced years ago, but nothing yet. Oh, I wonder why nothing yet. Hopefully something soon. Because that sounds really cool. I mean, I'm saying that, I haven't even read it, but you guys have really hyped it up for me. My favorite season 1, Tyrion. Yep. Season 2, Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister. Cool, cool. Season 3, Tywin Lannisters. I love the Lannisters. Yeah, you're definitely a Lannister fan, aren't you? I'm not like the biggest Lannister fan. Although this is actually a point that, spoiler alert, I made this point in the video that's going up on Wednesday, so you're getting a sneak peek. I'm liking Jaime Lannister a lot more in the TV show than I did in the books. I even questioned myself in my because I've just watched episode 3 of season 3, and I don't know why I hated Jaime so much to begin with. I really didn't like him in the books, and I don't know why that is. But in the TV show, I'm really liking him. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there. Young Henry Cavill would be a good. Oh, Jezzel! Yes, he would. Yes, I see him more as Jezzel than Logan. Cavill is too handsome, isn't he? Oh my goodness, that man must have been sculpted and handcrafted by God. There was a talk a few years ago for this series whilst Game of Thrones was wrapping up, but it's gone quiet for a while. I wonder why. Hey Becky, how is it going? It's going great, Jason Entertainment. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us today. Tom Hardy could be Logan. They're about the same age. Tom Hardy. So I take it the cast has got to be really attractive then. I mean, it does bring in viewers. You can't lie. Bit of eye candy. It does work for marketing. Well, Jaime Lannister on TV is good to look at. Yeah, do you know what? I think, am I really that shallow? It might actually be. That might be the reason why I'm liking Jaime Lannister a lot more in the TV show. Because like there was a certain scene that has happened between him and Brienne when they've been captured, and I read it in the books. It's almost exactly the same as what happened in the TV show. I wasn't a fan of him in that chapter in the books, but for some reason, when it's on the TV screen, I liked him. What does that say about me? It must be because he's got a nice face to look at. It's got to be. I didn't think I was that shallow. I'm a bit disappointed in myself, but hey ho, we can't help ourselves, can we? I picture a Conan Barbarian body type for Logan. Yeah. Oh, sculpted barbarian body. I saw Logan as tall, rangy, and ugly. Oh, did you see? You saw Logan as ugly, did you? Interesting. I pictured him as like the rough and ready vibe, but I quite like rough looking men. Chris Finch for Logan. Chris Finch? Who's Chris Finch? Can I Google this without ending the live stream? Let me do it on my phone. Imagine if I just accidentally left then because I was Googling something. Oh, that's who you pictured for Logan. Wait, there's quite a lot of Chris Finches who come up on here. Let me type in actor because I'm getting a footballer. Chris Finch act. Oh, okay. I did have the wrong Chris Finch up. Okay, I see it. The pictures where he has a little bit more shaggy hair. Oh, did you know that there's an actor called Chris Finch? So you mean Ralph Ineson? Ralph Ineson. Oh, he did come up. Yeah, I don't see him as Logan. He would make a good The Apprentice guy. Quay? What was his name? I think he'd look good for him. Oh, sorry, Jason Entertainment. What are your thoughts for the Harry Potter series? I heard it will be 8 episodes and it will adapt more faithfully in the first book. Sorry, I just saw it's about the blade itself. That's fine. No worries. These book club chats can just be a cool chat as well. I think, if I'm being honest, the Harry Potter books were great. I loved them. The Harry Potter movies were great. I loved them. Do we need more? Are we overdoing it a little bit now? Because when you've got movies that are great and books that are great, I don't know if the TV series is going to match up to it. I don't know. I might just be pessimistic. I hope they don't ruin it by overdoing it. That is my thoughts. Basically, I'm concerned, but I think it should be fine. They've got a big budget. If they cast it well, that makes a big difference. Sorry, he played Cleftjaw in Game of Thrones. Oh, I'm gonna have to look out for him because his pictures when he's not in Game of Thrones look different when he looks more like a normal person. Sorry, guys, I'm flitting between messages very fast. I'm just getting too excited at talking to you all. Right, the Rat Mafia has been very helpful in telling me the name of that person, but how is that pronounced? Quay? K? Quai? Kawaii. It was in Storm of Swords that I realised that Jamie was just as witty as Tyrion. Yes, that is a very good point. Jamie is very witty as well. We normally feel like Tyrion's the main witty one, but I do agree Jamie gets very, very witty. Kind of a little bit on the arrogant side, whereas Tyrion's more on like the non-serious vibe. But both are very, very witty. Anyway, we've come up to an hour, and I don't like to take up too much of your time because we're all very busy people. So I'm just going to see if there's any more final thoughts that I wanted to say about the blade itself. Please feel free to leave your final thoughts about the blade itself or anything. Tell me what you think to Terry Pratchett if you like. These live streams are yours as well as mine. So tell me any final things. And I'm going to see. Oh, yeah. So my final thoughts then. The House of the Maker chapter, I really liked how it split POVs within the chapter. So the chapter started off from somebody's perspective, and then midway through, there was a break line, and then it would switch to somebody else's perspective of the same event. Like they're all walking through the House of the Maker, but we're seeing it from different people's eyes, and they're viewing it differently. I loved that. Absolutely loved it. And all I wrote was, I enjoyed the ending. It sets up the next book well. So those are my final few thoughts that I wanted to say on the blade itself. It's pronounced Kauai. Thank you so much. That is so helpful. I will most probably forget that before I read the next book. But these live streams are recorded, so I can just go back to this and watch that. Thank you so much. Predictions for Before They Are Hanged. I have a feeling somebody's gonna die. A main character, I think, because they all. Spoiler alert. Mute me if you've not read the book, but they all live in this book, and I don't think that they're going to in the next one. I think. Oh, actually, I definitely think Kauai is gonna die. Kauai will die. I'm a poet, and I didn't know it. He seems too innocent. He seems like the little lost puppy dog that, and in these books, there's always a innocent character, and I feel like they always die, and I just feel like I can imagine him doing that. I could be completely wrong. The books get better and better. Thank you so much for saying that, because that's made me so much more excited than it already was. What's the next book club book? Yes, thank you, Tidkuni, for answering. The Gunslinger by Stephen King, which is book number 1 in the Dark Tower series. It's quite a short book. I think it's less than 300 pages. And I've heard it's a little bit crazy, and I can't wait. The live stream for that will be on the final Saturday of April, which is the 26th of April, at the same time as today. But as always, they will get uploaded to the live tab on my channel afterwards, just in case you can't make the live stream at the time. But thank you guys so much for joining this. This has been so much fun. It always is. I really like doing these. Abercrombie gets very experimental with POV hopping in later books. Read and find out. Oh, you've intrigued me. I'm excited. There is a battle in a future book with incredible POV splits. It really makes you think you're in the thick of it. Oh, I can't wait. Genuinely can't wait. I'm really going to have to read the next book, like, ASAP. We've had a mixed bag with the book clubs for me. Locke was okay. Doom was shite. Abercrombie was amazing. Same. I would say I've enjoyed them all. But yeah, they've all felt very different, haven't they? If you do have any recommendations of anything you would like us to see in the book club polls, please let me know, because we do have a space open. I like to pick 4 for the polls. So now that we've picked the blade itself, there is a spot open for the poll that I will upload probably in about a week or so, maybe once we enter April, to pick for May. So the Gunslinger was one of my favorite opening lines of all time. Great opening line to Gunslinger. Oh, I can't wait. Becky, you need to stop reading the first books in the series. I know. I've started so many series, and now I have to finish them all. I can't just leave them midway through. Why do I do this to myself? I'm my own worst enemy. Thank you, Becky. Awesome stream and awesome energy from you. Thank you so much for joining, Jason. I really, really appreciate it. I'll be sure to join the live stream for the Gunslinger. Yay! Thank you so much. I would love to see you there. This has been so much fun. Thank you all so much for keeping me chatting. I made a list of things I wanted to say, and I barely even looked at it because you've just all been so great at sharing your opinions. And this is exactly what I wanted from these live streams, really, is for you guys to talk about the books that we've been reading. It's so wholesome. Lovely thing to do on a Sunday. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Really, really appreciate it. And yeah, stay tuned. If you want to vote in the book club poll for May's pick, I will post it on my channel very, very soon. And yeah, hope to see you next time at the end of April. Fun stream. Good night. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Bye for now.